Hello, hello, hello. How we doing, everybody? This is Powell Chee here, talking about doing our self-storage investing on the live stream. Today is episode number 4, big number 4. So today we'll be talking about doing self-storage investing. Generally, how I like to do this is I have about a half hour-ish of content where we talk about a certain topic that we're going to talk about and then we'll get into Q&A, try to wrap it up within that 45 minutes to an hour range. And so that's generally what we like to do. And so first off, let me just put up here kind of our agenda as we get going on. The agenda, we're talking about case study, off-market deal. So this is an off-market deal. The reason I do these ones is because specifically I can talk about an actual deal that happened, right? And a lot of people ask me, when you talk about self-storage investing, a lot of times it's like, you can get into the general ideas of what's going on, what are you doing? But a lot of people are like, I want to know about specifically, how did you get this deal? And I recently closed these deals, so there hasn't been much history behind them. So I really just kind of talk about the acquisition side of it. And that's what we're going to be doing today, is talking about an off-market deal that I closed. I just recently closed it in July. And so we'll just talk about the acquisition part of it. Later on, as we get a little more history behind it, we'll start talking about the management of it, things like that. All right. And we'll get into some, personal experience, just kind of personal experience that we've had. And we'll finish up with Q&A, like I said. Okay. So we got a few people on here. I definitely appreciate you guys coming on here. Why don't you guys let me know where you're from? Because, when you're doing these live streams, it's like you're talking to yourself. You're talking in front of a computer, and it's not the funnest thing to do, is talking in front of a computer. So I like to have some interaction here. So why don't you guys tell me where you're from? Write in the chat if you guys are on Facebook, if you guys are in LinkedIn, if you guys are in YouTube. If you just type in the comments there, you can I'll be able to see your comments, as well as if you have any. If you're able to log in, I think on that little link that we send, I'll be able to know who you are and kind of where you're from, and the questions, instead of it just saying Facebook user, it'll say, actually who you are, and we can talk who you are. But yeah. Okay, great. So it looks like we got some people coming in, and let me know where they're from. So let's see who we got here. Paige. Welcome, Paige. Great to see you. Great to see you, Paige. It's been a long time. Paige and I met, I think, at a real estate event in Baltimore, I believe, right? So that was a while ago. But great to see you. Great to see you, Paige, in from San Diego. Let's see. How about we got Brandon Brico, Dan Brico, Detroit. Welcome. Michael Semmel. Okay. York, Pennsylvania. I was just in Pennsylvania. I was just in there. Wife's family's from there, so I was just in Philadelphia. I don't know if you guys see Philadelphia. You got the Philly stuff on, right? So, very cool. So Ken Colville, South African, but relocated to Montreal. All right, we're going international. We're going to Canada. I appreciate that. Thank you for joining, Ken. Darren, let's see, Darren. Thank you for joining as well. Frankfurt, Illinois. Okay, awesome. I appreciate it. And let's see, who else we got? We got Josh Torres. Thank you. Thank you for joining in as well from Las Vegas. I was just there last month. I was thinking about going out there in September, but I don't think I'm going to end up making it. But yeah, Las Vegas, not too far away from where I am. I'm in Los Angeles myself, but I'll get into that in a second here. And what else do we got here? We got a Facebook user. Let's see. Sorry, I don't know who you are necessarily, but you're from Kent, Washington. So thank you for joining from Kent, Washington. One of our Facebook users as well. So let's go ahead and let's get into this, right? So I'll just give you a brief introduction to kind of who I am, what I do right now, so that way we can sort of level set what's going on. But my name is Powell Chee, self-storage and multifamily investor. I've been investing since 2015 bought my first single family house. After that, I started investing in multifamily, got involved in 7 different properties, either owned them or was a joint venture or was on a general partnership of like 5 different syndications. Those are all large, like minimum. I think the smallest one was like $12 million as far as the property is. 100 units was the smallest one. It's actually one of the nicest ones, but 100 units. those are all big syndications. Really was excited about, progress that was going on with multifamily and everything. And then COVID hit, right? When COVID hit, that kind of made me take a shift. And because I live in Los Angeles and I've been buying all my properties out of state, um, when you use that approach, you use the same approach that I do, which is like, I'm not targeting a specific market. So I don't have a one specific market. Like all the facilities or the properties that I have, one was purchased in Indianapolis, another one is in Dallas, another one's in San Antonio, another one's in Atlanta, another one's in Jacksonville, another one's in Phoenix. Like when you're spread out like that, it's hard to know the market like your back of your hand, right? I don't have that, local knowledge of one specific market. So when I'm buying properties, it takes me a little while to like not only analyze the deal, but analyze the market and then analyze the submarket and things like that. And so because I'm doing that type of thing, and I'm looking at a larger geographic area, I'm not able to necessarily jump on this deal that, say somebody was going to go through some hard times right during COVID and unknowns and things like that. And they needed to sell, they needed to get out of the property right away. Like that's not a property that I'm going to be able to jump on because I still need to do a lot of research and figure this out. I need to figure out the market. And then by the time I do all that stuff, it'll get scooped up by somebody that is in the local market and purchasing, only properties in the local market. So because of my strategy and the way that I do things, I just knew that I wasn't going to buy anything right when COVID hit. And so I took about 6 months. I said, I'm not going to buy anything for 6 months, but I'll spend this time learning a different asset class because I got all this time that I'm not going to buy multifamily. So why don't I learn a different asset class? So I learned self-storage, which was basically my second favorite asset class at the time. I spent 95% of the time on multifamily and 5% of the time on storage, which really meant that I didn't do anything on storage. I just, heard about it, listened to a few podcasts and things like that, and thought that I liked it. So I was able to spend the time and figure out like, wow, what do I, let me figure out if I really like this or not, right? What do I think about the asset class? Is it something that I want to dive more into, or is it something I just eliminate and say, I'm never going to do this. And so I just get rid of it. So self-storage, I would say, let's fast forward a little bit. I really, so about a year ago, about this time. So I had learned it. I had taken a course, listened to a bunch of podcasts, forums, all kinds of different things. You want to learn as much as you can from as many different people as possible. And then I really started saying, okay, well, now I know, since I know multifamily and I know storage, I know what's the differences between them. And like I sort of had a strong basis of like commercial real estate, and I could just kind of apply that to storage. So I started looking at actual deals. I started looking at putting deals under contract. So I started putting out offers and eventually put out an offer and got my first offer accepted in October. And then I closed on that first deal in January, right? And so if you were with me 2 weeks ago, we talked about that specific deal and closing that deal, right? And how I closed it and how did I find it? What were the steps that I went through to find your first deal? Because that's probably the most important one, is your first deal, right? Once you get your first deal, then you got a lot more tread, like you built a lot of traction and you can kind of repeat the process. But doing that first one is really what takes a lot of effort. You need to push that big wheel, right? It's like you need to gain the momentum. And so you need to start pushing that big wheel, and in the very beginning, it's harder to push. So from there, closed my, started putting out offers, and then got another offer accepted in March. So March and April, right around that time, right at the turn of March and April, I got 3 offers accepted all at the same time. And so I talked about one of them last week, right? That was an off-market deal in Mississippi. So for those of you who were on last week, we talked about that deal. This week, we're going to talk about the second deal that I got accepted. And this is a 100 and let me see, I'll just put it up on the screen here. 152 unit property in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 23,000 square feet. Okay, so that's the one we're going to talk about today. Next week, I'll talk about the third one, which is a different one. So we'll talk about the third one next week. All right. So let's see. Let's talk about, let's get into the actual deal. So we'll get into some of the specifics about like how did I find this deal, and then from there, I'd love for you guys to post questions. So again, I appreciate you guys. Let me know where you're coming in from. We got people from all over, from Kent, Washington, Las Vegas to San Diego, all the way up to Detroit and Montreal, Frankfurt, Illinois. Let me know what questions you have when it comes to storage, right? So a lot of times people have questions on basics of storage. A lot of times people have specifics on maybe this deal. I mean, I can get into the specifics if you want to, but and some people have more specifics about their deal they want to ask a question about. So I'm happy to answer whatever questions that I can answer for this deal. Okay, so let's talk about. Let's start off with here. How did I find the deal? Right. I mean, that's one of the most important things is how do you find the deal, right? So what I do is in all of what I do is really networking, right? A lot of networking. So I'm using brokers, right? I'm using brokers to find deals, and I'm not necessarily going direct to seller. So a lot of storage, a lot of single family, even a lot of small multifamily, we're going to try to go towards direct to seller. So I don't do that right now. I think that's a great avenue. I just don't do it right now, right? I just don't have the capacity yet to add that to my marketing campaigns. So I'm talking to brokers. Now, this deal was actually an off-market deal though, but it came from a broker. Well, I'll tell you how it came from a broker. So where it came from is this deal was the same seller that I bought my first deal from, right? So the deal that I closed in January, the very first deal, right? That was also in Baton Rouge. So when I met the seller, eventually when I was doing my due diligence, right? I met the seller at a property, right? When we actually met at this property. So it was called Baton Rouge number 2. So I met Baton Rouge number 2. That's where his office was. And so, made great rapport with him. He's a big hunter. So he's all into hunting. So he had all his trophies all over the place and his shotguns on the ground over here and, pictures of him hunting and everything. And so, you want to gain rapport with him. So I used to hunt. I hunt a little bit. I used to live in South Dakota, so I used to hunt some pheasants. So, we talked about hunting a little bit and what we used to do and the differences between living in LA and trying to hunt and versus living in South Dakota and how it's so accessible and so accepted there. Whereas in LA, it's like, you hunt people think you're crazy. So I just got in rapport with him, just talking to him. And then quickly what became the question was, hey, what about this property where we're sitting at right now? What about selling this property? And he was like, yeah, sure. I'll sell you this property too. And I said, great. So once we close our first deal, let's get our first deal closed. Let's talk about that. And then let's pick up the conversation about this deal. All right. About Baton Rouge number 2. And he was all for it. He was all for it and everything. And then, so since we were there, we just took a tour of it already. So we were already there. We looked in the office, looked outside at the property. And the other thing too, is that I made sure that the broker knew, right? Because the broker was the first one. He introduced me to this deal first. So the first deal was online or on market, right? So it was listed. It was available to everybody. It was, on websites and things like that. And then, so when the second deal, Baton Rouge number 2 came around and I started talking to the seller about selling his second property, I made sure that the broker knew that I was talking to him about it because I don't want a broker to think that I'm trying to cut him out of the deal, right? I don't want him to feel like, hey, this guy's trying to cut me out of the deal. I'm trying to, not trying to get my commission and things like that. And so I just told the broker, I said, hey, stay on him about this second deal because we would like to buy this second deal as well. Now we want some presence. We'll have some presence and we'll be able to scale out better in one market. Plus it'd be like, basically getting 2 deals at one time, right? Now the thing was though, when he said yes at first, and then pretty quickly after that, he started, he didn't say no. He just said, I don't know if I can do it yet, Powell. I got a lot of things here. I've owned this property for years. I think it was 15 years. Got a lot of stuff here. Not only my stuff, I got my girlfriend's stuff. I got her family stuff. I got my family stuff. And there's just a lot of moving parts of whether I can move all this stuff out yet and really sell it. And got to talk to the bank. A lot of just, like wasn't sure, right? A lot of maybes. So to me, I was like, let's alleviate all of that, right? So I started negotiating with him and just kind of telling him, hey, look, if you have a problem or an issue with that, you have too much, there's a few units that have other people's stuff and you're not sure about moving them yet. Why don't we'll do the transaction and then we will, we'll negotiate that part of it. We'll just, if you need to stay there for a couple more months, then you stay there for a couple more months. And so that became what we discussed, and that was actually written into the contract, right? That we were going to say, hey, let's we gave him a couple units and said, I give you this one unit. You have 6 months to stay there for free, rent free, right? I mean, because realistically, rent free is not that big of a deal, right? He would be paying $90 a month, right? $90 a month for this unit, and it's either pay $90 a month for this unit and be able to close on like a $620,000 deal, or worry about this 6 months worth getting of $90, right? It's like, who cares? So give him 6 months of $90 rent free at this one unit. And I said, okay, and if you don't move out, we're going to charge you full rate at, starting, basically month 7. So, you got to move out or whatever you got to do, or you're going to pay rent. He was like, yeah, no problem. And then he wanted another unit. He said, I want this other unit for 3 months. So we gave him another unit for 3 months for free. And he said, what I'm going to do there is I just have a bunch of stuff, and I'm going to put all my stuff inside of that unit, and I'm just going to auction it really quickly and just get rid of it. And then he's like, I'm going to take the proceeds. And I'm like, you do it. Sure. You auction it. You take the proceeds. You have it for 3 months. If you don't get out within 3 months, then we're going to start charging you rent. And he was like, yeah, no problem. He's like, I'm going to auction all that stuff right away. Then he had some other stuff, right? He had a bunch of hunting stuff. So he had like a big hunting refrigerator. He had some kind of outdoor wash bin. And I think something else, some other kind of like appliance outside that he really wanted. And I was like, that's no problem. Take all that stuff. I have no problem with that. So those were, the reason why I bring these up is because to me, they're small points, like they're small issues, right? He wants one unit for 6 months, another unit for 3 months. He wants his refrigerator. He wants his outdoor sink, and he wants, I don't know, some other appliance. It's like, to me, that's like small potatoes, but for him, that's a big problem, right? He's like, that's why he's not leaving the property. It's because he wants that stuff. And so, if you can kind of solve these problems for people, that's one of those things that, like, you ask him, why won't he sell now? Or what's the issue about him selling now? Once we kind of got over that stuff, and it was like, hey, all right, let's sign the contract and send it over. Let's make this deal happen. So, so that's a little bit how I found the deal. So it's basically, it originally came from a broker, but staying with it became like an off-market deal that nobody knew about, right? There was no other bidder, there was no other person, there was no offering memorandum put out. The broker didn't send it to anybody else. It was just me, my team, and that seller, and we have a great relationship. Like, so we had already taken the tour of the property, right? So when it came to like, hey, we got a new deal, we already know about it. We've already been out there once. We are going to go visit it again with another group of investors who weren't privy to it the first time. And so, we're going to go do our due diligence. And so we brought other people. And so it was a great time to meet the seller again, talk to him and see how things are going. He's a good guy. And so we just caught up, and it just makes things go like so much smoother, when you have reputation and a rapport with the seller, and they want to sell to you because they know that you closed the deal last time and there was no real big issue that came up, right? They're happy with it. So just kind of works out all around. And I can get to talking about scale in a little bit, because like, why do you want to deal in in the same city as that you already have? So this one is about 10 miles away from my other property, but yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. So let me see. That's how I found the deal, right? After you find the deal, really quickly, we had already kind of negotiated an LOI. It was very, very similar to our previous LOI. So he'd already seen it. There was the only things that were different, right, is the different facility, different purchase price, different closing table and things like that. But everything else in there is generally the same. Felt very comfortable. So that was really an easy part to get through, right? And then once for me and my process, once I get this LOI, I submit this LOI, and I know that this is going to happen, then I'm really starting to put together the team, right? That's the next thing. Is like, who on the team is going to go out there with me to go do the due diligence, right? Who wants to go on site with me? Who wants to go visit the competitors with me, do some secret shopping and find out how the competitors are doing, find out what the competition level is like in the market, and find out how this property is performing, right? And why would we buy this property, and what is this property? How does it compare to the market, right? So that's what we're doing. Right away, putting to the team, because I like to bring people out to this, do the due diligence with us, right? I think that's just part of why you want to invest, is you want to get people out there to see the actual property and see, what we like about it, what we don't like about it, what we can fix, what needs to be fixed, what's the lighting like. We visit the property at night so we can check out the lighting to see if we need to improve the lighting, the security, anything like that. Yeah. And so I think that's sort of a fun piece to be part of, right? Is the early due diligence. So after that, we are, purchase sale agreement. So I don't know, I put this on the purchase sale agreement here. Should have put this on. So the purchase and sale agreement is next. That's what we're doing next, is after putting together the team, right? And then, like I mentioned, once that's accepted, in general, people have asked me this, is like, when do you go and visit the property? So this property was one that I had already visited, but in most cases, I don't visit the property until I have got the property under purchase and sale agreement or accepted LOI or something like that. So there is some agreement that, hey, we're agreeing on the price and the terms. We just need you to visit the property now, and things like that. So I generally visit around that particular time. So either I have the property under contract, or I have a executed LOI. That's when we'll go and visit the property. So when you go on site and you're doing your due diligence, this is where you're looking for things like, you need to bring your other team with you, right? So you bring not only your investors, I bring my investors. Not everybody brings their investors, but some people do. I do the inspections. So we have an inspector go out there, right, and take a look at the property, right? We're looking for capex and what we need to spend, how much we need to spend, and what we would spend this money on to improve the property, right? So maybe it's security system. Maybe they need an updated video system, video recording system. Maybe they need fencing. Maybe that's lighting. Maybe it's signage. Signage is one that you're probably going to do, because you probably want to change the name, right? Let me see. Beyond that, there's other big things, right? Is there expansion? Is there room to change, to convert anything? Like in our case for this one, it's about 20,000 square feet of storage space. There's about 3,000 square feet. I don't know, maybe 3,000, maybe it's a little bit less, 3,000 square feet or so of office space. So for us, we don't plan on using the office we're not going to put any person in the office. We run our facilities unmanned as much as possible. So there's nobody in the office. There's nobody there to accept rent payments or do tours or anything like that. We don't have that. All of our stuff is done either online or through our call center. So we have this office. We have this, I don't know, 2,000 square foot office or so of what are we going to do with it? So right now we're going through the plans of figuring out, do we convert it into a climate controlled storage, right? Or do we just renovate it and make it just an office space? I don't have any interior pictures. I do have some exterior pictures I can show in a second here. Why don't we take a look at the property, just kind of seeing what we have. Okay, so here's a look at the property, right? Just basic self-storage, right? It's nothing like crazy, like, hey, there's something I'd never seen before. It's like metal walls, metal roof, metal doors, right? Concrete, and this is just kind of down one of the aisles. Right. So let me see if I'll pull up another one here. See, here's another one. As you can see, the same. It was a different aisle. I think this is a little different aisle. This is a different one. Doors on there. They have a camper parked back there, but just pretty much like you see, Class C type of private property, right? Built, I believe, in like 1995, somewhere around there. I'm not sure the exact date, but yeah. And so that's generally like what the properties looks like. The front here, this is the office. So this is after we actually took it over. So this is when we took it over. We put up our radiant storage banner just to be in front. So right away, one of the very first things we do is put up some new signage, like banners and things like that, before we put up our permanent signage. But you can see this is this is only like half the office, but this is like half the office, and you can see it's like a legitimate office. So, it's a nice office here, nice building. So we're thinking about potentially just renting that out to people like a realtor, a CPA, any kind of office professional, things like that may want to, about 2,500 square feet of office space, right? Okay, so that's a little bit about the due diligence and what we're looking for. It's something we do want to have our property manager come out with us as well, so that they can see the property and they give us an assessment. They generally do an assessment early on, but they'll give us an assessment on site as well, to what they feel about the actual property when they're there, and the competitors as well. And so that's really important, because you're relying on your property management team to help the property be successful. Right. And so if they need to feel confident that they can achieve what you're thinking that you can achieve, whether that's rent increases or I'll tell you, like, some of the value add in this deal, right? Some of the value add that we see is that the owner was not charging any insurance on, so no mandatory insurance. So in self-storage, for those of you who don't know, it's very, I wouldn't say it's, I don't know, half the places charge insurance, half the ones don't, right? The ones that are a little more professional are going to start charging insurance, mandatory. And you don't have to charge insurance. You can just make sure that your renter has insurance. So they might have their own renter's insurance, and they have their own renter's insurance, and that will suffice. But you want to make sure that they have some type of renter's insurance that covers their stuff inside of your property. And that helps protect you, so that your business is not liable for their couches or their whatever, their, bikes or anything that's inside of there, right? They have renter's insurance to cover that in case it gets damaged. And with renter's insurance, generally it costs, like, say, $9 a month or so on the inexpensive side. That $9 a month, you as an owner will actually receive a significant portion of that $9, right? They'll generally receive somewhere like